crew, so normally when you run Starfire Protocol in harder activities where enemies hit a bit harder, it might end up looking something like this. Yes, I know, no one is dropping their Empowering Rift out in the open, but in harder activities, even being behind cover is tough because Starfire just can't heal you. Especially if you're trying to do the normal gameplay loop of dropping the Empowering Rift, doing damage, and getting your grenade. Well, what if I told you we can have ×2 restoration with a Starfire Protocol build without having to give up our exotic or our grenade? This means we can still always have our Well of Radiance for boss damage and bring good old Witherhoard and throw a million fusion grenades like we normally do. But when we're not in our well, we're going to give ourselves ×2 restoration for that amazing healing and become the Unkillable Starfire. We still have amazing uptime on our grenades as well, and with Lightfall coming, this build has the potential to be even better since we don't have to slot artifact mods anymore, which opens up our gauntlets and our class item to be able to run even more mods that can return grenade energy for us while running around with restoration ×2 and just slaying out. Oh, and Bungie also teased this new fragment called Ember of Mercy, and it says if you're running a solar subclass and you have the new Ember of Mercy fragment equipped, picking up a fire sprite will grant you the restoration effect. This means that on hunters or warlocks, where we normally have to give up a powerful grenade like our fusion grenades to get that extra healing and restoration, we basically won't have to do that anymore thanks to this fragment, and I am super excited about that. Okay, sorry, I kind of got off on a rabbit trail there. This is the Starfire perfected build where we can have ×2 restoration while still bringing that Well of Radiance and crazy fusion grenade damage. If you find this video helpful or enjoyable, then make sure to hit that subscribe button for me to see some awesome builds in Lightfall and with the new Strand subclasses coming. And if you would like to support Extra as well, the link to my YouTube member section is in the pinned comment, and you get a bunch of extra perks for being a member, so thank you so much if you choose to support Extra. I really appreciate it. So make sure to pay attention to everything because it's really important you get it all down correctly to have the best success with this build. So the first thing I want to go over is the aspect Heat Rises. This is really important to the overall build, so I hope you guys understand what's going on with this. You can fire weapons, throw your melee, and throw grenades while gliding, which is super nice. You can also hold your grenade button to activate Heat Rises, consuming your grenade and releasing a burst of healing energy around you. Consuming a healing grenade increases the strength of this burst. So when we consume our fusion grenade, it gives us a burst of healing to us and our teammates. So that's one way to heal everybody. And then down here at the bottom, we have Final Blows while airborne increases the duration of Heat Rises and grants melee energy. So Heat Rises can get up to like 25 seconds pretty easily. And this is any Final Blows while airborne. This includes your powered melee and your strong fusion grenades. And then we get melee energy for killing things. When you kill about 3 enemies, you'll have a full melee refund back, which is just crazy. And melees on the Solar Warlock is really strong because it applies radiant to you and your entire fire team for that 25% weapon damage boost all the time. So the more you can have your melee up, the better. But Heat Rises is going to allow us to have our ×2 restoration within this build, and we'll get to that in a second. Next, obviously you want to take Touch of Flame. It makes our fusion grenades explode twice, and our fusion grenades are super strong on their own, so that's why we love Touch of Flame with this build. Now for your fragments, you want Ember of Benevolence, and this states applying restoration, cure, or radiant to allies grants increased grenade, melee, and class ability generation for a short duration. When you have Ember of Benevolence procced all the time, it allows your solar grenades to come back in literally like 15 seconds on its own. So Ember of Benevolence is really strong, and I'm not sure why people don't really use this. Just kind of be close to an ally when you either use restoration, cure, or radiant. Now we have 2 ways of applying cure with this build. One is that we're going to consume our grenade like I already went over, and then we have a way of applying radiant with our powered melee through the second fragment here, Ember of Torches. Powered melee attacks against combatants make you and nearby allies radiant. So now we have 2 ways to proc Ember of Benevolence, and then these powered melee that makes us radiant is a 25% weapon damage boost to you and your entire fire team. Next, we're going to take Ember of Empyrean. Solar weapon or ability Final Blows extend the duration of restoration and radiant effects applied to you. So any solar weapon kills, there's super strong solar weapons in the game like Galahorn or Sunshot, or even some of the legendary ones like the Might of Mini Tool. There's some really good options with this, but it also states ability Final Blows extended. So that means our really strong solar grenades and our melee can take out enemies. And then our last fragment is Ember of Solace. Radiant and restoration effects applied to you have increased duration. This makes both of them last about 12 seconds, but the main reason we're taking this is for the restoration effect, so we can get that ×2 restoration and make sure we proc it. So for our abilities, you obviously have your fusion grenade. This is a normal Starfire build, so you're going to take that fusion grenade, so when you're in that Well of Radiance, you're doing that crazy damage. I like Celestial Fire over Incinerator Snap. You can choose whichever one you like. in easier content, take Incinerator Snap, but in harder content, I choose Celestial Fire. And then for your class ability, it's Phoenix Dive, and this is the thing that brings this entire build together. So what Phoenix Dive does is dive to the ground and create a burst of solar light that cures nearby allies. So this is our third source of proccing Ember of Benevolence. You have Heat Rises when you consume a grenade, you have your powered melee attacks make people radiant, and then you have this Phoenix Dive that can cure nearby allies. At the bottom here it says, while Heat Rises is active, you gain restoration while diving and scorch targets upon landing. So the main thing we're taking from this is restoration while diving. But we need Heat Rises for this to be activated. So if you go over to your aspect and you have the Heat Rises and you consume the grenade, well, when you consume that grenade with Heat Rises, it actually grants you restoration ×2 when you dive to the ground with Phoenix Dive. Now this only literally lasts 1 second. It's literally the dive animation to the ground. With Ember of Solace being equipped, it makes that restoration effect last for 2 seconds. So now when you Phoenix Dive to the ground, you will have restoration ×2 as long as you consumed a grenade. Now you don't have to be super high up in the air or gliding out in the middle of nowhere and diving to the ground to do this. This can literally be a bunny hop off the ground and then dive back to the ground. Same thing when you're trying to proc melee damage with Heat Rises. You don't have to be gliding around in the air. You literally just have to be bunny hopped in the air when something dies and you will get that melee energy back. So basically the gameplay loop is here to consume a grenade. By consuming that grenade, we procced Heat Rises. Next, you're going to throw your fusion grenade that's super strong, right? It explodes twice because of our Touch of Flame. So that fusion grenade is pretty much guaranteed to kill something. When you throw that fusion grenade and you see it hit an enemy or stick to an enemy, hit your Phoenix Dive button, your class ability. So bunny hop into the air, jump in the air, do whatever you need to do, and just dive to the ground. Now when you dive to the ground, that fusion grenade killed something, or within 2 seconds afterwards, because you have restoration ×2 from Phoenix Dive, that means your fusion grenade had 2 seconds to kill something. So it's consume a grenade, throw your grenade, dive to the ground. Now when you dive to the ground, during those 2 seconds when that fusion grenade goes off and kills something, so with Ember of Solace, if you just killed one enemy with that fusion grenade, you'll get about 6 seconds of restoration ×2, which then allows you just to chain it into Ember of Empyrean with Solar Weapon or ability Final Blows, extend the duration of restoration and radiant. But if you happen to kill 2 or 3 enemies with your fusion grenade, which is very much possible because fusion grenades are so strong, you'll then instantly get restoration ×2 for like 10 or 12 seconds. And then you're just off to the races after that. But that's why Starfire works so well with this, is because you use one grenade to consume and you use your second grenade to get the kill to proc restoration ×2 when you're diving to the ground. For the mods on the build, you're going to take double bomber on your class item, double impact induction on your arms, and then the 5 combat mods: elemental ordnance to create a well, elemental charge to become charged light when picking up that well, and 3 times firepower to rotate back to your grenade as quick as possible. So hopefully I explained that well enough for you guys to understand exactly what we're trying to do with this build, because there is a little learning curve to it, but once you get it down, it's so good. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a great rest of your day.